On this episode of Translogic, we're saying hello to 3 high-end plugins. The Tesla Model S P85D takes off with major torque. BMW wows with the i8, and Porsche pulls out all the stops with the 918 Spyder. Welcome to Translogic, I'm Jonathon Buckley. It's been a few years since we've had the chance to visit Tesla here in Silicon Valley. Last time we were here, got to check out the Tesla Model S in its early days. Well, the engineers have been hard at work beefing up an already impressive powertrain, and they've come up with this, the Model S P85D. So when the Tesla Model S went on sale in 2012, I don't think there were many people in the car world that weren't super impressed with what was on offer. Cut to 3 years later and we've got our first real update, the P85D. The D stands for dual motor.
In the highest power version, the P85D, we've actually retained the larger rear motor and added the medium-sized motor to the front. Literally everything improves about the car with dual motor. There's no sort of technical drawback. And so we're able to actually achieve a 3.2 seconds 0 to 60. Yeah, it's mad.
470 horsepower in the rear, 221 in the front, 691 horsepower total. And let me tell you, it's addictive. As far as upgrades to the car itself are concerned, it looks pretty much exactly as a regular Tesla Model S. It's got all the things that we love about it. But what they've gone and done is taken all of that and improved on it. The 17-inch touchscreen is still here, still beautiful, crisp, super responsive. They have updated the interface slightly though, just to add a couple of extra bells and whistles. The display on the front of the dash now is slightly different too and updated with a bunch of new features. What I love about Tesla is that we're taking cars from the analog to the digital. This whole car is electronic. When you're talking about an all-wheel drive system, normally you would be doing it with drive shafts. Yes, there's electronic torque converters and things like that, so you are getting variable amounts of power to each wheel, but what Tesla does using the electric motors is it's much faster, much more accurate. So if you're losing power to the rear, it can add more to the front and vice versa. If you want to change the suspension, you can do that too. You can set it to low ride if you want to be going fast. You can set it to super high rise if you've got a big dip on the driveway to get through. You can even set it so that it's riding at a high ride height, but then when you hit freeway speeds at 65, the car will lower down as well. One really cool feature is that the forward-facing camera reads the speed limit sign, and it'll give you a little warning on the front dash here. Right now it says speed limit 25. I'm currently doing 30. Time to slow it down a little bit. And another thing that makes the P85D exciting is the autonomous driving functions that it has available to it in the future. Some of the hardware that the P85D has in it is the radar and the forward-facing camera, and we've got the 360-degree sonar, which is going to allow this car to do some really remarkable things. Real-time traffic updates will allow the car to drive itself in stop-and-go traffic. It's got lane change assist, so basically all you have to do to change lanes is just tap the indicator and the car will actually do itself when it's safe to do so. Self-parking features. Basically, if you have a private garage, your Tesla can come, you can hop out of your Tesla, walk away from it, it'll park in its garage. Or coming to pick you up in the driveway, you just call it and it will come to you. Or maybe you have a meeting in the morning, you set it with your calendar, which is on the big touch screen here, it will pull up to your front door. All you have to do is walk out the front door when it's time to leave for your meeting, hop inside your Tesla, which will then know exactly where you're going, have the map, navigation ready to go, perfectly climatized, favorite tunes going, and off you go. These are the sorts of things that are going to be available to this car in the near future and that this car is already capable of once they've figured out and ironed out all of the kinks. Which brings me to another point. How do we get these things? Over-the-air updates. In fact, they've already done one recently. This car originally had a top speed of 130 miles per hour. A lot of people went to bed one night, woke up, installed an update. All of a sudden, they had another 25 miles per hour to play with because the top speed right now, 155 miles an hour. The 3.2 seconds 0 to 60 time, yes, it's impressive. But with a coming over-the-air update, that's going to drop to 3.1. So what's all this going to cost me? The P85D comes in around about $105,000. We've got a few extras on this one, and basically you can boost the price up to all the way around $130,000.
You'll be able to choose 3 settings, which is normal, sport, and insane. It will actually say insane. It's true. This car is nuts. It's like taking off from a carrier.
What insane mode does essentially is gives you all of the power that this car has to offer. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be draining the battery faster if you're just driving around in this mode. You can leave it in insane mode and have that ready to go whenever you like it. Let's see how it feels. That's incredible. You can feel it in your chest more than anything. I've driven a lot of fast cars, but because this car has all-wheel drive and it's all torque, you just get this punch that just has left absolutely everybody else for dead. But I feel like it's kind of rude for me just to experience this all by myself, so maybe we should give the crew a ride. And then, do you see that? Oh! Wow.
I'm not much of a car person. Oh my God, that's fast. Oh wow.
I think it's brilliant that Tesla have come out with the P85D. I don't know if this was their strategy, but we know that the Model X is on its way. Adding all-wheel drive and 2 motors to the Tesla Model S, I feel is a great platform for them to, well, not only sell a few extra cars, but also to iron out any kinks that might be there to get the software just right so that when the Model X comes out, it's a fully working production car. Well, the P85D is exactly what we thought it would be, a rowdier, more powerful version of the Model S. But that, combined with its automated driving functions and future over-the-air updates, has reinvigorated our excitement for the brand and for its future models to come. A little later, we'll get our hands on Porsche's impressive plug-in hypercar. But up next, the BMW i8. This thing is straight out of the future. This came back from 2025 and said, "Hello, boys." The BMW i8 has been one of the most anticipated and talked about production cars for the last few years. Its science fiction looks totally set it apart from anything else on the road, and its next generation design is undeniable. But so far, our time with it has been limited to auto show drooling sessions. So without any further delay, the BMW i8. All I can say is, wow. I've never seen a car that's gone from concept to production and remains so true. This thing is straight out of the future. This came back from 2025 and said, "Hello, boys." The first thing you notice is just how incredible this car looks. It's been designed with full aerodynamics in mind. So all these little grooves that you see, the lines that you see up the side of the car, they're all designed to give the best aerodynamics possible. It's like no other BMW that's ever been made. I'm here with the head of product planning for BMW in the USA, Paul Fariola. I've got to say, it was great to get our hands on the BMW i3 last year, but no offense, it was the i8 that we've been dying to get our hands on. So let's talk about performance.
There's lots of different operating modes, and that's really what makes this car exciting. Up front is an electric motor. It's basically the same electric motor we had in the i3, and that's driving the front wheels. In the back, there's our 1.5-liter 3-cylinder engine, and that engine has on it a motor generator, and it's turbocharged. And that electric motor up front is also a generator, and that's charging that high-voltage battery that allows you to go.
The i8 gives you the best of both worlds. It's got sports car performance, it's got 357 horsepower, 420 foot-pounds of torque, and it's all-wheel drive. 0 to 60, 4.2 seconds. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi. Yeah, that's 4 seconds. But then again, I'm not exactly using a stopwatch right now, am I? And I tell you, if people thought the Tesla was just a green plaything for the rich, wow, this is really gonna piss them off. Now, you mentioned 4 driving modes.
Well, first, there's the normal comfort mode, we call it. And then the car intelligently picks what's best. It could be all electric, Depending on how you're driving, it could be all-wheel drive. Then there's an e-drive mode.
Currently, I'm in e-drive, which is 100% pure electric. You've got 75 miles per hour top speed, 22-mile range, and it's completely silent. And then you have another one which is called Eco Pro. It gives you energy optimized performance, which is reduced loads on electric and climate and heat functions and things like that.
There's a sport mode, and then not only are both engines ready to go, but they're tuned, they're ready to drive in a very sporting way.
Yeah. So to go into sport mode, the engine fires up, the dash changes colour, and away you go. One thing that also happens when you throw it into sport mode is you have the augmented engine sound. Sounds like you're driving a fast, racy car. Have you found it to be slightly divisive as far as the way people have responded to it? Some people are obviously all for it. Others are like, well, you know, is that kind of faking it?
What most people don't realize is that manufacturers have been working to tune the sound the car makes for years. We provide a little bit of sound through the speakers. The idea is when you're driving in a very sporting way, the driver wants to know what's happening with the engine. It's like an audible tachometer.
Quite nice. Sport mode actually gets the rear engine running, the 3-cylinder engine running, and that will actually charge your engine while it's running. It'll also give you regen as well, and so once you get back to town after blasting through the canyons, you're most likely going to have a nearly full charged battery. You switch it back into EV mode and just cruise home in silence. Okay, well, the electric motor itself will give you 22-mile range. To charge that from an average socket, how long is it going to take you?
The level 2 charging, which is around 240 volts, that takes an hour and a half. If it's 110 volts, which you can find anywhere, it takes about 3.5 hours. The key for this, batteries are heavy. There's 100 kilograms, about 220 pounds worth of batteries in this car. And to compensate for that weight, because weight is the enemy for efficient driving and for really great handling, we made the body shell out of carbon fiber. I mean, this is really great technology. Not only is it lightweight, but it is repairable. They cut a new section to fit, and then we have a bonding procedure. So really, the integrity is there even after an accident.
The interior of this car is simply stunning. I mean, BMW know how to make the inside of the car, we know that, but it's very BMW in its appearance. I can't not talk about the doors, and they look fantastic. It's a little bit tight getting into, but whatever. You've got doors that go like this. Awesome. When a car comes out like the i8, and usually it's the flagship of a factory or of an automaker, is there going to be a lot of trickle-down technology that comes from the i8?
I think, you know what, this technology is going to be around in not only BMWs, but a lot of cars for years. We at BMW aren't doing electric cars because the government are forcing us. We're doing it because we believe it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And a technological flagship car like this is important. We learn a lot, and you will be seeing this technologies in the very near future in other BMWs.
Clearly, the BMW i8 is the most exotic car from the German automaker since the M1. It's got this futuristic styling, but it also has this forward-thinking powertrain to go with it. The only thing is, you can't expect all that substance and style to come cheap. Up next, our final trick, the Porsche 918 Spyder. Since its introduction at the 2010 Geneva Motor Show, the Porsche 918 Spyder has been one of the most lusted after cars on the planet. It's a supercar that uses plug-in hybrid technology to evolve an entire class of vehicle. Some call it a hypercar, and today we get to drive one. Wow, finally get to sit in my dream car, the Porsche 918 Spyder. So simple, we've got this amazing key which looks like a Porsche. We just slip that in on the left-hand side, hit this little nub, and I believe we're moving. Doesn't sound quite the way it looks, really, when you look at the Porsche 918, you don't expect to be able to hop into it and have it pretty much silent. We've been brought to a airfield, so we have some restrictions, some limitations, but we can be a little bit naughty. When it comes to the specs of the car, we've got the naturally aspirated V8 in the back. Combined with the electric motors, we've got 887 horsepower, and Porsche claims 0 to 60 in 2.5 seconds. We're in a 918, we're at an airfield, it'd be rude not to try. When it comes to the specs of the car, Porsche claims 0 to 60 in 2.5 seconds. Of course, our attempt's going to be completely unscientific. This is an absolute weapon. Holy shit. When it comes to handling, this thing is such a grounded car. It's so low to the ground. I feel like my bum's scraping along the tarmac here. It's so long, it's so low, and then you've got the batteries in the bottom as well, which helps that center of gravity. We've got torque vectoring in the rear axle. We also have torque vectoring front to rear, so I think it's once it gets over 126 miles an hour, it will actually stop putting power to the front wheels and you'll just be getting it directly to the rear wheels. It comes in a little bit cheaper than its rivals. It comes in cheaper than the McLaren P1. It comes in cheaper than Ferrari's LaFerrari. That being said, good luck getting one because due to the badge, there's only 918 of these being made and they've all been sold. Right now we're in E mode or E-Power. It's the default setting that you kind of start off with in the Porsche 918. EPA says 12 miles of range, so it's somewhere around there, and it's basically all electric. You're not getting any help from the engine whatsoever. When you're in E mode, as I am now, it's completely silent. Just putting along, can't really hear anything, an electric whir, but you do have the option, you can actually hit the kick down button, which will fire up the engine. It's just like a kick down button like you'd see in any other car, you just and away it goes. Oh, you could listen to that sound all day. And then it just switches off and goes silent again. Then you're going to switch it over to hybrid mode. That's kind of like running regular hybrid. So you've got engine power when you need it. It'll fire up the engine to recharge the battery, or if you need extra power, the computer will let that judge when to switch on and when to switch off, just to give you optimum hybrid performance. In hybrid mode, she's just so civilized. It just putts along. This airfield's a little bit bumpy, but then we have sport mode. And now we have the engine. Naturally aspirated V8, 608 horsepower. You still have electric power in there, but it's conserving some of that power. It's not giving you the entire amount. It's using predominantly the naturally aspirated gas engine to give you your power, but it's still using some of that power to recharge the battery, and it's still giving you a little bit of power from the battery as well. So this is the mode that you want to be in for your high speed run. It'll have the wing up at the back, but it won't have such an aggressive angle on it, so you're not getting so much drag. I mean, the gear changes are just in the millisecond range. So they say that it's better to keep it in D mode and let the car do the shifting for you, and it'll also do your downshifting for you, which is actually pretty incredible when you're slowing down and you've got the car just blipping and dropping down through the gears. But hit this M button on your steering wheel here, all of a sudden I've got my paddle gear shifter. I can change it down and up as I please. Personally, I always love to do it myself. Holy, that's nuts. Then we go one more click and we're in race hybrid. Now this is the mode that you'll use if you're going to the track. You're going to get the most aggressive angle on your spoiler at the back. You're going to get all of your power from your engine, a lot of power from your hybrid as well. Well, I can tell you that the driving experience in the 918 is so much more involved. It's kind of like when you see the Formula One drivers heading down the straightaway and they start toggling with the steering wheel. There's different parameters that need to be set. You're going to have to go from race ready mode through the turns into sports mode when you've got a huge straightaway like something that you would see on the Nürburgring, and I guess that's why this car holds the world record, fastest production car ever around the Nürburgring. And this is where things get really fun. You then have hot lap mode, or the hot lap button. It's like a red button. It's like a button that you would see on a PlayStation or Xbox controller. When you use that, that's for a few hot laps. It's going to give you absolutely everything that you ever wanted out of this car. All of your horsepower from your engine, all of your horsepower from your electric motors as well. You can't drive a car like this all day without taking the top off. And what that does is amplify that thing. And that thing is incredible. Honestly, there's so much going on in this car technologically that I haven't even addressed how incredible this car looks. It's got this stance which has these great hulking shoulders behind you. Of course, it's all carbon fiber. The interior is just simply stunning. And when you walk up to it, it just looks like the business. I just wish that more people would get the chance to drive it, that there weren't only 918 of these built, that there weren't $845,000. This Porsche embodies everything that Translogic is about. We want to look at supercars and now hypercars that are just pushing the envelope of technology. And Porsche have thrown the absolute kitchen sink at this car, and it's created a driving experience that is like nothing else that I have driven before. Our epic day with the Porsche 918 Spyder had to come to an end at some point, and I just can't help but feel like we've barely scratched the surface of what this car is capable of. My only wish, though, is that a lot more people get a chance to experience what we experienced here today. For Translogic, I'm Jonathon Buckley. We'll catch you next time.
Autoblog, the ultimate automotive resource. From the latest vehicle reviews, shopping advice, and ownership tips, to helpful apps, community forums, and photo sharing. Autoblog, where you can research, shop, and share everything on wheels.